Can you start by saying your name?
My name is Cayla.
Thank you.
Yes. Can everybody hear me like this? Because I am going to have to use both my hands, so a microphone's going to be very awkward.
Well, I can hold it for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
Sure. So my name is Cayla. I actually went to school with Amy and Mark and some of the others that are around here right now. I've been doing bees for about 3 years. I have 3 hives right now on our property. I run 8-frame Langs. And I have 2 feral colonies and I have an Italian colony. Amy was asking me about some colonies that she's helping run. She needed to harvest honey from them, so I kind of walked her through it, so she asked me to demo today. I do a crush-in strain because I'm too poor to afford an extractor, but I would love to get an extractor just because then you can repurpose the wax for your bees in your next season. But that's what I'm going to demo today is the crush-in strain. Who has harvested through crush-in strain before? Okay.
Top bar.
Yeah, it will work for top bar too if you don't have the foundation or anything. Yeah. Sure. Everybody.
Does everyone want to come closer and watch?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to be in your way, Mark?
I'm going to come with the camera.
So if you want to come on up.
So I like to harvest from our bees twice a year. We do a spring flow and a fall flow. I kind of collect it throughout the year as it comes. So as they're kind of going through spring, they need more space. I'll maybe pull a couple frames, harvest it. I put my frames back out for the bees to finish cleaning up, and I have empty frames that I put back into the hive to replace them. And then usually around like June, when we're kind of going into a drought or something like that, I'll stop harvesting from them and just do inspections and keep adding boxes as they need them. And then I take whatever I have that I've collected through that flow, and then I send it out. So this is from our spring flow this year. I have like another couple, probably like another 1.5 gallons at home, but I harvested between our 2 hives, we just had the 2 at the time, probably about 120 pounds of honey from them this year. I did a split from my feral colony, and I'm not going to harvest from them this year. I like to wait a year before I harvest. I'm going to let them establish, but I think because they're from that same feral genetics that I pull a lot of honey from, I think they're going to be really good producers as well. So I was harvesting other honey today, so my equipment is not as clean as I like it to be because I was still working on it. But I like to have 2 separate buckets. I have 3 or 4, but when I'm doing a session, I have 2 separate buckets. One is for the actual wax and the honey and everything that you're going to crush, and then the second is the one that you put your strainer over, and that's going to be where your finished honey ends up going on. I'm going to have to put this on the floor, which is not my favorite thing, but it's just going to have to happen today. You can actually build like stands. There's designs online for stands that you can build where you can keep them kind of stacked, and then you can kind of tilt them out as you need to help with your flow.
Too tall?
Yeah, I tried. Yeah, it was too tall. Yeah, we'd have to put like a chair on the table. So I'm going to put this one on here because this is going to be our main production. These are from Little Giant. You can get them on Amazon if you live out on the west side. There's a new tractor store out there, like farm store, called Big R. They have a pretty good selection of honey supplies, and they had buckets out there because a lot of the feed stores don't have honey.
What's the name of it again?
Big R. It's out by like Tamaya in the casino, so you can go to the casino, win a little bit, and go buy some honey buckets. Yeah. And then I've tried different strainers in the past. I've tried the paint strainers. I've tried just like colanders, things like that. It just ends up being a little bit more work than I like. So this metal strainer is really nice. And again, it has some stuff in it right now, but it actually has like an insert. So you can take your coarse material out. So like I save all my wax, I feed it to my bees, and then I process it and I make salves and candles and things like that. And on the inside of this, it has a finer sieve to kind of push your honey through, get all that little stuff out of their bee legs, antennas, whatever. And I like it because it sits on the edge of this bucket, so you're not worrying about something flipping over and then you're hands-free, because this can be a pretty, once you get it on you, that's it, and then you're just stuck. My other tool that I really like having is a bench scraper. You can get these at any like cookware supply that you have. A lot of people, they use them for like making dough and stuff like that, but it has a nice flat, sharp edge, and when I'm working these medium frames, it fits almost that exact frame, so I can just push everything down, which is really nice. And the last thing that I use is just like a meat chopper, just like at Walmart. Mine is very well loved, as you can tell, and that's just to help break up those big chunks of wax so that you're not getting kind of any clogs in your outflow. Does anybody have any questions right now?
Where did you say you got the scraper?
We had this at our house. Where did you get it, Andy?
There's a cooking store up by the Whole Foods on Wyoming, and they have bench knives, and you can also get them online super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're called bench knives.
Yeah. So a metal one is nice because then you don't have to worry about it bending, breaking, getting too hot, anything like that. Look at it. Put this in here. So these are what I pulled from today for my bees. I have mixed frames, so my bees love to just not do what they're supposed to do. So I have to, in ideal world, I would not have foundation in any of my frames because they know what they're doing better than I do, but sometimes what they want to do is very frustrating for me as a person. So I have to usually do a foundation frame and then a foundationless frame, because if I put too many foundationless frames, without fail, my bees will build across all of them. So that's on, let's see. I have a frame in here that was pushed up against some. Oh my god. So, nope, it was the first one. On this frame, you can see right here where that kind of is broken. That's because all the frames after this frame, at about right here, went in the opposite direction. So I didn't have time to deal with that today, but it'll be really fun when I do. So this one does not have foundation. So generally, what I try to do, and usually I have more hands than this, is just cut these foundationless ones out with the bench scraper. And we'll just put it in the bucket because it'll be 1,000 times easier. And then just kind of push it out, and you can just let it fall. So again, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to save any of this wax for my bees. I'll feed it back to them, and I will use it to coat some like foundationless frames later to try and encourage them to do what they're supposed to. But
So when you say feed it to them later, what do you mean? You just...
so after everything that I harvest from this, everything that finishes draining, I will collect it, run it, like squeeze it out pretty much through another strainer, which I don't have today, and then I'll lay it out. I have a bunch of cookie sheets at home that are just for this. I'll lay it out, and I'll lay it out in my yard, and the bees will all kind of pick through it.
Oh, so you open feed, you have open feeding.
Yes. Which I didn't know wasn't a good idea until just now. So just scraping all the edges. On top of open feeding, I will also, whatever I don't get in out of this, I will put this empty box with these empty frames back out and leave that for the bees as well. So I'll have to think of something else to do.
It's interesting, I have a lot of bumblebees in my yard and I never see them on the
Yeah,
material I put out.
I've seen a couple paper wasps kind of check it out, and I've seen a couple like carpenter bees kind of see what's going on, but I think the bees when they are open feeding like that, I think they're a little bit too aggressive for some of the native pollinators. I mean, they could totally be on there and I'm not seeing them, but I've never seen, if anything, the only thing I've seen is like yellow jackets picking off bees that are stuck in honey or something like that. But I've not seen paper wasps or any of the other native pollinators like really get in there and like go for it. Okay. So And these each weigh probably about 10 pounds. They're pretty hefty. Okay, so this one has foundation in between, doesn't have any of the holes on either side. So with these ones, kind of the same process, but see how it kind of fits right inside of the frame, and then you can just push it down. And then it takes most of the wax off for you. You'll get a little bit of that remnant, and you can just keep scraping that out. Does anybody have any questions, so I don't have to stand here quietly?
How long do you have to allow it to drain? So it's like it takes all day, right?
It kind of depends on how warm your honey is, like the environment that they're in, because if it is cooler, it is going to kind of thicken up. It's not going to flow as fast. If you are doing this method with 2 buckets, I don't recommend like harvesting an entire box at one time and throwing it in here. So you're going to get so much honey and so much wax in here that there's no way that you're going to be able to drain it all out, and you're going to end up with a huge glob of wax at the bottom that has a bunch of honey kind of trapped in it. And then you're going to have to end up taking it all out and kind of trying to reprocess it. So I would probably not do more than like 5 frames at a time. Let that kind of filter through and then go from there. So it isn't very...
Is that the thing, this thing over here used to?
Yeah, it's just like a meat chopper. Like you use it to like make like ground beef and stuff.
Oh, potato, mashed potato?
Yeah, Same thing, you can just get it at like a cooking store.
Oh, okay.
So how many frames do you leave for your bees during the winter time?
So both my bees overwintered last year with 3. I keep my bees deep in the bottom, and then they had 2 full mediums on the top. My feral bees did great and went through most of it. My Italian bees somehow cut themselves off from their entire top hive and almost starved out in the winter. When I opened it up in the spring, there was like a ball of bees, maybe the size of my fist, just in the corner. But they had, their whole top box was full of honey that they just never touched, that they just didn't make it to. But I'm definitely...
All
What's that?
winter? Were they flying all winter? I don't know.
No, not mine.
You run them how the sun and
I live over on the west side, up by the Vista, like by the petroglyphs. But I didn't see my bees really at all during the winter, but it wasn't a super warm winter either, so... Or a super cold winter. But I'm definitely... I do this for my love of beekeeping, not for honey production. I do sell my honey occasionally, like friends and family or whatever. But if my bees need it more than I do, they get it. And I try to keep some honey stored in frames, like in a box, so that if I do go in and I see that they are starving, like my Italian bees were, if they had gotten to the point where they had eaten everything, I can put those frames right into that box and they can kind of process that.
How do you store that? Outside?
I keep it in my garage.
In the garage?
Yeah.
How do you keep the wax moths from getting into it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't do that very well this year. This next year.
That's the problem that I've had.
Yes.
is trying to
So,
start.
yes. This summer, I had like 7 frames of honey that I was keeping in my garage, and I kept it like completely closed up. It had a hive excluder that was completely shut. It had a top on it. I was like, cool, it'll be fine in here. And then I opened it up in the summer because my bees never needed it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to process it. And it was full of wax moths. It was disgusting. And I was very annoyed. My chickens were very happy because they got to eat a ton of wax moths. So this year, what I plan on doing is essentially insulating it if I get to that point. Taking whatever honey is left over, if I need to consolidate down or something, keeping it all in a container, and then like bagging it pretty much to seal it.
But the eggs are in the wax.
Right.
The
So
eggs are in the wax.
So what
I
you
do the
can
same
do those,
thing.
you can
You
also
freeze
freeze
it,
it for
right,
48
and you
hours.
can
If you have a
freeze it.
larger freezer, 48
Yeah.
hours, and then seal it up real tight. And it won't be-
48 hours, you said?
Yeah, 48 hours and then you freeze.
As long as it freezes solid.
place on the west side you said was, it's big,
Well,
big R, is that what you call
Big
it?
R, yes, big R.
And it's out of 5
we bag it and then we put it in.
I think
550.
550, yeah.
Yeah, exit Bernalillo, like you're going to Santa Ana Star Casino.
Yes.
It's literally across the street from Santa Ana Star Casino.
It'd be so nice just to pay for shirt.
Oh, I know.
I think there's a big R here in town too. Just look them up.
And they have bee supplies.
Yeah, they have quite a few bee supplies.
They had a lot of stuff. So all I'm doing now is just kind of breaking apart these big chunks of wax that I have in here to just separate it out so again it's not clogging any of the outflow.
I'm gonna take a picture.
It doesn't look cute like that though. It looks really gross. Yeah, you guys can come look. I'm just chopping up all the honey. So you can see with the wax, because this wax is pretty new, all the caps just kind of float off, which is kind of nice because if we just left this to sit